Okay, my outstanding friends, welcome to a Mudfossil University World School. Now, I had done over 200 videos and was ready to make a presentation to the world about mud fossils, and it didn't go well. Now, we're going to start over. I'm going back 5 years ago. All right, these are the videos. And this is 5 years ago, and I started right from the beginning how everything happened, and lungs and fascia and the bone block and petrification and all of that stuff. And we're going to get into it again now. So let's just start with the first presentation I was going to make that sort of brought you in a little bit into how this petrification process works. Because at this time, nobody knew that this was a bone. Even Harvard and Yale, all of them, they still refuse to accept it because they're just so upset about it. And so we're going to do it here, and you are going to be understand that you're going to understand a lot, I hope. Now let's just play this, and I will. It's just going to be a replay of this again 5 years ago. Now.
That was the particular.
Now let me get back to the beginning, and this was petrified human fossils are the same as petrified trees. And then I wrote this. It says, fossils or petrified human remains are created like the fossil trees in the fossil forests. Now, soft tissue can be perfectly preserved in mudslides by clay, fine platypolar silicates due to the fascia that protects it coats all of the things from decomposition. Fascia is not water soluble. That's the key. I'm remembering stuff now that even like the platypolar silicates running through the earth, they create electric currents. It's called telluric currents. I almost forgot half of this stuff. I mean, I'm getting old too, so. All right, now, here goes. Let's just start over. I'm going to play right from the beginning. And this was going to be my presentation about mud fossils. Like I say, it did not go well, and therefore I withdrew for several years. Here goes.
All right, everybody knows what petrified forest is. Fossilized trees. They're all petrified trees. Now, this particular colored material that's in here percolated down and took over the material that was inside, the cellular material, and it ended up turning into stone in all these different colors. And that's because that was the particular dominant material that was in the soil when these became encapsulated. And everybody understands that's a tree. But you can never tell that by looking at that. You can only tell it by the external structure. And it's exactly the same with a lot of my stuff. And the reason is because this is nucleophilically changed. It's invaded.
All right, nucleophilic substitution means that the actual organic material that was here, biological stuff, is always changing. It's always giving and taking materials in and out. But when you die, it's not an exchange anymore. It's a stabilization process, and that is when the substitution takes place. And the new molecules invade, boom, and replace the molecules that were there before. That's why you see these different patterns. Now, and they will have different patterns depending on the different areas in the body and in the biological material, because it has different metals and minerals. All right, so I hope that helps. Here goes.
All life is very ionic. It's always moving. There's chemicals interacting with each other. It has a lot of chemical mobility. And when things percolate down through the soils, they invade this. It's just a natural mineralization process. I believe it's called permineralization. Totally understood. Totally understood. And this is what's happening with the stuff that I have. Now, this is the process. You can read it. It's during the late Triassic, and the same area over here is supposed to be late Triassic.
All right, all of that stuff I have discovered was wrong about the dates and the times, and literally everything's wrong. So we got to just wash your mind clean Just wring it clean, wash it out, scrub it, and just wring it out as hard as you can, and just let it get ready to absorb reality.
200 million-ish. Down trees accumulated in the rivers.
Insane.
Sediments containing volcanic ash covered them. Groundwater dissolved. Silica. Silica. Remember that. Silica is a polar molecule. They're little platey silicates, and they drift down through the soils, and they create electrical currents. This is known. This is understood, and it's been proven.
It's called telluric currents. When the sunlight hits the earth, that's electricity. It's literally electricity. You're going to learn that in here too. Every single science, 100% will be covered in Mudfossil University, and you will find, you are going to find that very, very, very little of what you were taught can be supported. And I can support every word that I say in my research with material evidence. Not just, oh, it was permineralization back to the Triassic millions and billions of years ago. Nobody knows that. Nobody has any idea about that. All I can tell you is that the specimens that I am working with are on the top of the earth, not even buried. They're bones and body parts and goose heads. All right, it still have feathers and patterns in them. This is, all of this stuff was from the flood, the Great Flood. This is what you want to remember. So I'm going to just going to tell you the truth. Now you can take whatever you want from that. Everybody's going to take a different position on this. And I don't care what your position is. I am going to go with the material science, and then I draw my position. You draw your own conclusion.
Alberta, Canada. University of Alberta. But anyway, the silica from the ash carried into the logs where it formed quartz. Another polar mineral. And
the quartz invades blood tubing and all the blood vessels. That's why you see all these quartz veins. They say, oh, quartz veins. Yes. They were veins or arteries. Most of them were arteries. The veins have clamps in them every so often so that the blood can't go backwards. It's got to go towards the heart only. You know, the artery, the vein blood. The artery blood just runs all around anywhere it wants, and the vein, like a vacuum cleaner, sucks it right back up to the heart.
And then the quartz start to crystallize.
That's what it is.
It gradually replaces all the organic material. The traces of iron oxide and other substances combined with the silica to create the varied colors.
Iron oxide is nothing more than blood. FeO2 and FeO3 is red hematite and magnetite, and it's blood.
Iron oxides, a lot of iron oxides. Where's iron come from? That comes from life. All this stuff is products of life. And it's just, and the people that are so anti-creationist are scared to death of this.
That's the key. They attacked me, called me a flat earther. That guy is just lost. He's crazy. And it was just 100% flat earth remarks. 100%. And most of them were that they were like saying, "Oh boy, we love it. You told us Earth is flat. Yippee, yippee, yippee." You know, and I think that was from academia because they really attacked me like that way. And so I am going to take every single comment as about flat Earth, that the Earth is flat and there's no space station, there's no Mars, there's no any of that stuff, as an attack. I take that now as an attack. All right, so don't do it because I block attackers. You know, if you can attack me with evidence, absolutely. But when you say the Bible said that the Earth is flat, so there's no space station, that's it. You don't belong here.
They are just petrified. They will not even look at it because they're so scared. You saw that that petrified wood. This is a petrified finger. And that is the petrified blood that gushed out of it.
You know something, I got to go back to this because the reason I talked about them being so petrified of this was after going to Yale and Harvard and every single huge, I thought they would embrace this. And he treated me like a fool, demeaned me, absolutely disgraced. And then by my family and everything else. A lot of bad memories coming up here, but I'm going to get past them somehow.
The artery at the end, and that's the vein in the artery there. And there's a whole section on this. So you find, I think there's one that's called finger or something. But anyway, what's the difference between this being fossilized and that tree being fossilized? Wood rots. I explain the whole reason that this is what it is and where it is. And what's the difference between this?
Oh, I just did a video about this fingertip, and the black stain's pretty much gone from it now. But it's pretty good. You see how nice it is there? That's the stain of a distal phalanges.
In a manner that is pretty obvious. It's some form.
See it? How good that is there? Now it's pretty much
an appendage.
Look at that, perfect. Now, here it is now. I suppose you can still see a little bit of it. Not like it was then. That was black. I tried to get it in a light the other day, and I couldn't see the damn thing. But boy, that was good back then. Everything, once it hits the oxygen in the air, all of this stuff was just semi-buried. And but very, very close to the surface. Most of it was above the surface, to be honest with you. But when you see them clay like this, that means it was invaded with muddy, bloody, fleshy minerals and metals, and that's why it turned into clay. That's nothing more than flesh just hardened up. I'm serious.
It's a tip of a giant creature,
giant human, because I've had a DNA tested,
which is a
DNA
suspected
tested,
lung, and I think prove it.
Absolutely prove it. Had a CAT scan. The other one was CAT scanned as well.
Those things being petrified and wood being petrified. They're both under the same process. And you'll notice down here it says that the park, where the trees are found, the park has also produced many fossil vertebrates, including giant crocodile-like reptiles called phytosaurs, large salamanders, and early dinosaurs, and invertebrates including freshwater snails and clams. So this is the only reason that this is different than that particular situation, and it may not be different at all, but here it's still extremely wet, fine muds. And this was a glacial drain, and I believe these animals were impacted quickly under extremely dense, fine particulates, under extremely cold, compacted conditions, and not like flattened over the course of time the way they would be if they were layered in sedimentary layers slowly.
All right, that is all wrong. Well, wrong and right. There's some right and wrong there. At this point, I didn't take into consideration that everything I was finding, literally almost everything, appears to be a product of the Great Flood. Everything's flat as a pancake on one side. I mean, it's just the way it is. And that's exactly what would happen if everything was wet and the waters receded and they laid flat on the surface of the earth, because they'd be salty waters. They'd already have been semi-preserved, because that's that nucleophilic substitution, which is a stabilization process. So they're on the surface of the earth, the water drains away, and if they get flushed with clean, fresh water, they just turn into stones. Like this here, hold on. Yeah, look at this. This is a lung, and all the pleura, all of the fascia pleura, whatever you want to call it, came off of there. And those are the alveoli, those little holes there. And all blood gushed out of it. Literally, blood ran out of there. Every one of these had a ball of blood gushing out of it. Because inside here was, and I'm sure if you cut this open, there's still going to be blood. I have people sending me stuff that, this is blood gushing out of them. There's no mysteries here anymore. It's just to be able to investigate it. And that's what we're going to do. I'm going to go through one video at a time.
It's a different, I believe it's a different process because I don't see this flattening. I see somewhat flattening, but most of the structure it has still contains its integrity. Now I don't know why. Well, I'm only speculating, so that's my speculation.
All right, so I was wrong on the last part about how they actually became mud fossils. I was originally, I can't remember, I gotta be honest with you, this is go back so long time. I originally think it must have had something to do with the glacial thing. I talk about it happening quick and cold and so forth. But again, I just really honestly don't remember. Okay, so that's phase one. We are going to go on and look at each one of these different videos one at a time, and I'm going to try to correct my errors as I made them before, and I hope we all learn something. And you guys can discuss things in the comments. I'm not going to comment. You guys comment. And then if I see something that I want to address later, you know, I will talk about it in an upcoming video. All right, I hope this works. Because I can't come up with any other way. No, I got to be honest with you. You know, a lot of people talking about helping and doing this and that, and it just doesn't happen. I'm just sort of rambling on by myself, and I don't know. It doesn't seem like I'm getting too many people. I have over 100,000 people on a subscription, but it goes to 2,000, stops, and it's always the same people. I know, but that's okay. I don't care. I'd like to see a bigger audience, but I guess that's just going to have to, hopefully this will work. But I don't come and attack me with any of this nonsense stuff again. I'm just not going to allow it. All right? If you can have a valid question or a valid argument, yes, but support it with some material evidence. Don't tell me, I don't want to get upset again about this. This goes back 5 years. This is like the fourth time I've had to close up this shop. And I'm not doing it again. All right? I love you all.